I don't need an opening paragraph, let's go! There are two options, two schools of thought. Those being either A. The previous Zelda games are no longer canonical. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild represent a total reboot of the Legend of Zelda story. All the other games exist as mere legends in the world and did not literally happen. All references to past events, locations, and characters, even if extremely blatant, are just a little fan service, nothing more. Or B. Convoluted as it may be, all the previous games are still canon. It's commonly accepted that Breath of the Wild, at the very least, is a merging of all three timelines into one. Maybe some people disagree with that, I don't know. But operating under that assumption makes things simpler. And I like simpler. While option A would make any convolution a non-issue, it does have the issue of being incredibly lame. That's not what you're here for, is it? To be told that none of it matters? That all those stories you experienced in your childhood are not just fictional, but double fictional, within the fictional context of the fictional universe? No. Zelda lore is serious business. All these things happened. I want to believe. The strongest evidence for option B being the case, that all games are still canonical, is the recognizable sound made by the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
How is the Master Sword?
That's Fi, or Fi. Fi, perhaps. We all know her, we all love and hate her in equal proportion. Brings a tear to my kingdom to hear that sound. To know that Fi is still kicking in that iconic sword. Zelda, for some reason, is the only one who can understand her. But it's undeniable that the Master Sword in Tears of the Kingdom is the same Master Sword as in Skyward Sword. Meaning Skyward Sword, at the very least, has to be canon, right? The biggest mystery of Tears of the Kingdom's story is the time travel element. Surprise, surprise. As I'm sure you know, Skyward Sword at the time of its release purported to be at the very beginning of the Zelda timeline. That may or may not still be the case. It's ambiguous as to when exactly Zelda travels back in time, but Rauru and Sonia claim to be the first king and queen of the Kingdom of Hyrule, its founders.
What an unexpected answer. We are the king and queen who founded Hyrule, after all. Or at least we were the last time I checked.
Rauru and his sister Minoru are Zonai, the Zonai being descendants of the gods who came down from the sky. Rauru and Minoru appear to be the only living Zonai still around at the time of Hyrule's founding. This may or may not conflict with Skyward Sword's telling of events. Zelda and Link from that game are said, by the wiki at least, to have founded the Kingdom of Hyrule and established its royal bloodline. Or did they? As far as I'm aware, there's nothing explicitly stated in Skyward Sword that directly implies Zelda and Link became king and queen of a kingdom on the surface they named Hyrule. Am I wrong? Another thing that the wiki states is that in the Skyward Sword manga, Hylia's original chosen hero lived in the Kingdom of Hyrule, prior to all surviving Hylians being taken into the sky. But I read the manga, and it doesn't say Kingdom of Hyrule anywhere. It says Land of Hylia. So I think the wiki might just be wrong about that. I think the right way to understand this is to think of what Rauru and Sonia call the Kingdom of Hyrule as a distinct political entity that formed quite a while after the Hylians returned to the surface post-Skyward Sword. After the Zonai civilization flourished as well. Perhaps Sonia is a descendant of Skyward Sword Zelda, who joined with Rauru and officially formed what's known as Hyrule. Either that is the case, or Rauru and Sonia's kingdom existed prior to Skyward Sword, and Zelda and Link merely re-established Hyrule after returning to the surface. I don't think that's the case, however, as that would cause problems in understanding this guy, Demise, the original Demon King, the precursor to Ganondorf, whose incarnation Ganondorf is, continually reborn in an unending cycle, so strong is his hatred. If Rauru and Sonia's Kingdom of Hyrule existed prior to the events of Skyward Sword, Ganondorf's appearance wouldn't make sense unless Ganondorf is not actually an incarnation of Demise. Visually, Tears of the Kingdom's Ganondorf bears more resemblance to Demise than any other game's Ganon, especially when he officially becomes the Demon King. Their abilities also seem to be aligned. The Demon King Ganondorf has the ability to create monsters out of thin air, something Demise seems to have done as well. This seems to be a latent power of Ganondorf's, as Zonai Secret Stones cannot give you powers, only amplify them. Ganondorf's Demon King persona was an element of him that was always there. He's an incarnation of Demise. That seems pretty straightforward. This means Skyward Sword must take place before Rauru and Sonia's Kingdom of Hyrule was founded. You know what, maybe this is easier than I thought. It slots in very nicely in the official timeline JPEG's Era of Prosperity, prior to the Minish Cap. Boom! Hyrule is established right there on the timeline. Let's talk about Ganondorf and Ganondorf Dragmire. Not the same person, apparently, which is weird. Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess feature an antagonist named Ganondorf, who is consistently the same fella, and who is also presumably an incarnation of Demise, ? Definitely a pretty evil dude who wields the Triforce of Power. Apparently, however, thousands upon thousands of years before this Ganondorf was born, this Ganondorf became king of the Gerudos, stole a secret stone, became the Demon King, and was sealed away for an inconceivable amount of time. This raises a few questions. First, can Demise be incarnated in multiple people at once? Because it's not like this Ganondorf ever died, he was just sealed. So who is this guy? Second, this isn't a question, but it appears to be the case that this Ganondorf was just chilling in some underground tunnel throughout the events of every Legend of Zelda game post-Skyward Sword, plus at least 10,000 years. That is a long freaking time. How did Breath of the Wild Zelda and Link manage to stumble across this guy when nobody else ever had before? I don't know, divine providence maybe. Is Ocarina of Time's Ganondorf another incarnation of Demise, another physical vessel of this Ganondorf's malice, or just a very evil dude who, as some divine joke, was born with the power of the Triforce? I mean, it's not like they were thinking about this when they made these games. I see very few clear answers regarding this. Maybe someone who knows the lore better than me can figure something out. Because honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just saw a distinct lack of lore videos about Tears of the Kingdom, and I just decided to be the change in the world I wanted to see, okay? The craziest part about all this is the sheer scale of time we're talking about. These two events take place 20,000 years apart minimum. Probably. Because Breath of the Wild takes place 10,000 years after the advanced Sheikah civilization built shrines and guardians, and the incarnation of Zelda and Link sealed away the calamity that was threatening the world at that time. And who knows how many thousands of years went by between these games and that calamity. I mean, here's another kicker. Poor Zelda was flying around for those 20,000 years with the Master Sword stuck in her head, I guess. This girl has been alive for too long. It's pretty clear that although Tears of the Kingdom takes the story aspect of the game much more seriously than Breath of the Wild did, Nintendo doesn't really care all that much about keeping all this consistent or making it make sense. This interpretation of things makes sense to me, but maybe I got a whole bunch of details wrong. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. Bye-bye now.